People have predicted, prayed about, and planned for the end of the world. Jews are waiting for the Messiah. Christians say it could be the second coming of Christ. Billionaires are dropping serious lettuce on ritzy doomsday dens across the globe. Zuck wants it to be completely self-sufficient with a water filtration system and livestock. But it's not just him. It seems paranoia is seeping through Silicon Valley. Peter Thiel from PayPal and AI developer Sam Altman are also preparing for the worst. So is this a keeping up with the Joneses situation, or do they know something we don't? Or are they worried we're going to go grab the pitchforks and storm the castle?
Billionaires are prepping luxury doomsday bunkers with moats that set on fire. The newest trend for the uber-rich is building underground shelters complete with $50,000 trapdoors, parking spaces for submarines, water cannons, and a moat that literally sets on fire in case of intruders. Here's a literal rendering of how it would work in case of an external attack. According to builders of these luxury bunkers, the buying frenzy began after Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg announced that he was constructing a $100 million bunker in Hawaii. It got really busy, and it seems like the phone hasn't stopped ringing. World War III seems to be coming. Ron Hubbard, CEO of Atlas Survival Shelters, told The Hollywood Reporter. Renderings show a state-of-the-art medical room, complete with an MRI machine and top-of-the-line equipment. Of course, a state-of-the-art escape tunnel is a must, and so are bulletproof trapdoors leading to secret passageways. With the pandemic top of mind, builders have also thought of decontamination rooms. If the bunker somehow fails in apocalypse, parking spaces for extraction devices like super yachts, helicopters, and submarines can also be thoughtfully implemented into the space.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Thursday, March 6, 2025. Out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. That's the mantra of our shows here. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube in the live chat. Our wonderful moderator, Ronnie's in the house. Thank you for doing a wonderful job, Ronnie. Of course, Christine, the Wise Thumbs in the live chat, and everyone else. All right, I want to say this right off the bat. Two things. Number one, we're approaching today's subject without any fear whatsoever. Leave it at the door. And if you feel fearful at the moment, take a few deep breaths into the center of your chest. Relax. There's a much bigger picture at work. Second thing is that some of this information today is going to be intuitive, which means it's stuff that we or I have been getting over and over again. So it is intuitive information, which means for that part, there's no evidence to find. All right. The question is, are certain groups in the world, governments and in the private sector, preparing for a mass casualty event? What kind of event could that be? And most importantly, what can we do about it? Or how can we approach this subject? Why is it even important to talk about it? Okay, so the way that this came up for me is that we're observing patterns and systems. What is happening in the world is for us only important in terms of patterns and systems, because what we see on the screens is how it's presented to us. That doesn't mean that's the truth. That doesn't mean that's what's really happening. But if you observe what's going on the screens and how it is presented to us, you can find patterns and systems. And we're not the only ones doing this. Every good researcher does this. And the obvious pattern that we find, that true researchers find, is that there is a new system that's being implemented. And we've talked about this, a worldwide AI controlled system. And that might be a little part of this conversation here, but not the main part. What I have been wondering for years now, since 2020 more specifically, but even before that, but since 2020, is how come the show, the political show and the world finance show has changed so much in the way that it's presented to the people? Now, we all know that politics has always been a show, that's sort of always been scripted for the masses, but there is a completely new quality to this being scripted. And so I kept wondering what's really going on, specifically in the United States, where we have most insight. there have been rumors floating around for years now that the entire government is operating under a continuity of government directive. What does that mean? It means that regular procedures of government aren't in place, but continuity procedures are in place. That's usually if there's an emergency or an approaching emergency, then you can basically disable parts of the Constitution and run a different scenario. Also, if there's a foreign threat or something like that. And people have talked about this at length. Patel Patriot, I know, is one that came out. Then Derek Johnson, is the guy that's been talking about this a lot. And Christina and I have both felt that this is, in essence, it's true. In essence, we are not operating under the kind of government that we were used to in previous decades. What I would like to present today is a intuitive and somewhat, of course, evidence-based case that the reason given, namely that the Patriots are in control and they're running this cleanup operation and they are removing the left power-hungry elite and whatnot, is not the real reason. In other words, the psyops, the informational psyops that were run, I think were there to largely disguise the real reason. I do think that there's a strong possibility that the government here and the governments of the world, those who are in the know, are preparing potentially for a catalyst event, and I want to quickly look at what potential events we're looking at. Again, not with fear, but if this is potentially true, and if we're in this time, because catalyst events have always, and cataclysmic events have happened periodically. I mean, there's not really there's not a serious researcher out there who hasn't found some patterns. The question is, are we in the time period of such a pattern? So let's look at just 3 scenarios that are possible. And then let's look at why this topic might be important and what we can do, not only to prepare, but to think about the after, okay? So let's look at this here, my friends. I would say these are 3 likely scenarios that are floating around. Remote viewers, prophets, chronologists are talking about. A geophysical catastrophe could include massive earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions triggered by shifts in the Earth's crust, pole shifts, or external gravitational influences. Entire regions could experience landmass upheavals, submersion of coastlines, and extreme weather anomalies, leading to mass displacement and infrastructure collapse. The pole shift is an observable phenomenon. For example, it has been happening. The North Pole has been shifting significantly and at a faster pace. The point is, no one can accurately predict what the point of no return is and when it would start triggering things. In terms of electromagnetic influence, I believe we're already experiencing pre-signs of such a potential event. Many of you have experienced sort of energetic shifts in your being, sometimes very rapid. Now, there are multiple factors that we need to take into account, but I do believe that the electromagnetic field in our sphere has been changing. And if I'm not wrong, then this is scientifically proven. I know that quite a few people have talked about this. So this would be one potential event, a geophysical event. A solar event could or would likely involve a Carrington event level solar flare or coronal mass ejection, releasing an intense wave of electromagnetic radiation toward Earth. This could wipe out the electrical grid, fry satellites, disrupt communications, and plunge societies into darkness. Without power, modern civilization would face a rapid breakdown in logistics, finance, and daily life. Now, it's interesting how various researchers are pointing to a grand solar maximum or grand solar minimum period. I will just say that a solar event, solar flash, is has been also floated around and has been predicted in various fields, including the spiritual community. And some look at this as a simply a sort of a instant consciousness raising event. I'm just sort of projecting what is out there, not saying this is necessarily what's going to happen or that we are in this time period. But if I take into account all my observations, I lean more towards yes than no. And then, and this is according to Jason Brashears, who many of you know of the Archaics channel. He talks about the Phoenix event, which is a recurring reset mechanism tied to cyclic catastrophes, possibly controlled by an advanced intelligence or simulation framework, the AIX. He describes a cataclysm plasma discharge event predicted to occur in 2040, causing global devastation through sky-based phenomena, rapid environmental shifts, and societal collapse. This event, he claims, has been systematically recorded in ancient texts and follows a pattern that resets civilization in cycles, a 138-year pattern specifically for the 2040 event. But he also chronologically predicts the Nemesis event for 2046, which I believe he thinks is even a much bigger event this time around, which follows a longer cycle. Now, without specifically, committing myself to any of these scenarios, I understand that proponents of each of these scenarios and even another option have very strong data that supports their thesis, if you will. So what I'm saying is that these are not the only potentials. There is a potential for a catastrophic shift, at least from a human perspective, connected to the AI singularity. We simply don't know yet what that all might entail and how fast that might unfold. Be that as it may, studying what government has been doing, what's happening in the background, and the activities that are disguised, I believe that there has been a massive preparation campaign going on. I think at least for 10 years now. And, we might be still some years away. I don't know whether that's the 15-year pattern of Brashears or the 2 to 5 year pattern others have predicted. And some even put it in this year, 2025. The point being, if this is correct and the governments have been preparing accordingly, they haven't told us, right? They have not. Every now and then you get a little bit, it's usually the NASA guys whom nobody believes anymore, but they put out, oh, there's this asteroid and it might be a 2.4% chance it's going to hit the Earth, that kind of deal. But really, there is no open communication campaign that says we are anticipating something and this is how we prepare, which tells me that if such an event is really on the event horizon, it is so big that a whole of nation or whole of world approach wouldn't be possible because they know that too many people would perish. We're also simultaneously already going through a mass extinction event because of medical interventions of the last years and because of forced environmental factors. So there's a lot of excess death. Simultaneously with that, we know and we have proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that people in high positions of power in the economy and finance, in governments, and behind the scenes have been calling for a reduction of the world population for many years and have implemented their plans. Okay, like I said, if we're adults in a room and if we are if we are pioneers in a new level of consciousness, then we also must take into account that this is a possibility, such events, and what can we do about it? I don't know that we can alter the course of such an event, but we can ask ourselves what would be important in the meantime and what would be important afterwards. My current observation is that what they're doing, the changes that they're creating worldwide, and the fast pace that they're taking, when we talk about the annexation of Greenland and Canada into and potentially Mexico into a North American Union, the geopolitical changes, talk about the Panama Canal and all these strategic things that are supposed to roll out very, very fast. This tells me this is a preparation for the after. Okay, what is the after? So after this event, I think that they want to immediately be in sort of activating the switch on an entirely new system, this AI driven system that we might see some bits and pieces of already in the next months, but I think it's really going to get activated fully afterwards for a much smaller population. So I would suggest that, yes, preparation is one thing. Thinking about, how we might not just survive, but also conserve the knowledge that we have gathered together over the last decades and years. How can we preserve that? How can we specifically preserve the knowledge of the deceptions that have been running for so long in history, in politics, in science, in biology, in practically everything? And if we are there after such an event, how could we educate the remaining population on these deceptions and on alternatives, decentralized living, strong communities, localized, the stuff that takes away the power from centralized governments? I do think we have to think in that way. The problem, I believe, in previous resets is that even if there was a group of people who knew what was going on, is they didn't properly prepare for educating or informing the population for after. We might have an advantage this time around. I don't know, but it does seem that way. So that would be one thing. Also, wisdom, spiritual knowledge, and spiritual preparation. I mean, I want to put this out there. We're all going to die, my friends. That's a given. Question is how, when, and what is your intention? Are we willing to finally think in deeper ways about the after this physical life, this physical body? Some people might want to return, quote unquote, reincarnate. I think there's an automated system going on there for you. I don't think you have to do much about that. You're going to automatically kind of get recycled. Others, however, wish to return or experience something beyond this construct, something beyond this simulation. We're going to have a conversation here in a couple of days with Isabella Green, whom we invited back, and we're going to talk about that specifically. So there's a spiritual preparation for how we exit the body and where we go, maybe consciously driven rather than being driven by another force, right? Consciously making a decision. That is important for this time. And many people are drawn to learning meditation techniques and sort of travel techniques outside of the body, beyond maybe the dimensions of the construct. Many people are interested in this, and too many for it to be a coincidence. I believe on an intuitive level, we are perceiving this looming shift, this looming transformative event, maybe. Again, I'm not approaching this from any fearful level because I don't fear death whatsoever. I don't fear the end of this physical experience. I don't believe it is a bad thing in and of itself. So that takes away the fear. And so I'm practically thinking, if governments are preparing and they are doing, they're using the energy that we give them to prepare as good as possible to be in a position of power for after, then we should do the same, only better and more conscious, right? Because if we don't, the cycles are going to continue. So physical preparation, I'm not saying we can even remotely all get our own bunkers and do that kind of stuff. But I do think that we can use our intuition to create the best possible life for now. Why is that important? Why would it be important to create optimal conditions if such an event is coming? When you are in your optimal state of being, spiritually, physically, mentally, as good as you can be, your creativity is off the hook. Your intuition is off the hook. you perceive guidance from maybe a higher aspect of yourself much clearer. That steers you in the right directions. And how many of you have experienced that in your life where you had planned to go one way, but in that very moment, intuitively, you were all of a sudden inspired to go the other way. And only later you found out that on that first path, there was danger. And on that second path, there was safety. And you were intuitively driven that way. I believe this applies to this scenario too. I think people who are in tune will be guided to go certain places or stay in certain places or make changes. And they might not even know why, but they're doing it. As a matter of fact, this has been shown to us over and over again over the last months and years, where people had these deep internal drives to make a shift, a change, go someplace else, live in a different way, and they've done it, and they don't even know why exactly. So this is intuition is going to be your number one friend in this, an ally. And then, physical preparation, of course, includes how can we be self-sufficient. This is always true, with or without a catastrophic event. How can we be as self-sufficient as possible, store food for the future, have sort of that on hand, and be prepared in that way? Community, people that are seeing the patterns and the deceptions of the world and who wish to get into a higher state of consciousness and information, that helps a great deal. And as I said, how do we not just store, but also make sure that information that is important, that has helped us to sort of awaken and to see things in a more truthful and authentic way, how can we store that information and transport it to future generations? These are all things that we think about, things that I believe that those who are with us on this journey and feel inspired, I would encourage you all to do this. I know that people are working on time capsules and all kinds of projects that would help with that. Mostly, I think we can, if we internalize this information, not like remembering by heart every detail, but the principles, right? If we internalize the principles, and if we can be honest enough with ourselves, if we do that on a scale of hundreds of thousands of people, even millions of people, there is there's a greater chance that this information is in the field and available to others in the future. Now, that all sounds strange to people who think only in the sort of three-dimensional physical way, but it is absolutely how we were able in the last 100 or even less than that, 50 years, to have an explosion of seemingly lost knowledge that has come back. How did we do that together? Most of us picked it up from the field intuitively and then started looking for evidence in the world, researching. But most of us picked up intuitively on things. Where does that come from? It comes from the field of all information. That is knowledge that we need to transport to each other and remind each other that we have that ability. Now, I want you to quickly imagine that if these dark forces, if you will, or disconnected forces have it their way, they will have a completely interconnected AI system in place for afterwards. That system will mimic the information field, but it will keep people within a grid even tighter than now. That's at least a plan. I'm not saying they're going to succeed by any means. I'm not saying that, but that has always been the plan. So if we sort of come like, or the next generation comes out knowing nothing about the past, not knowing how it was before the reset event, they're going to be absolutely connected to the new system. And I think this has been the problem in previous resets, that this knowledge was lost. So how can we do that without fear? And if you are fearful, thinking about a catalyst or cataclysmic event or catastrophic event or mass casualty event, why? I understand that these descriptions don't sound very pleasant, but ultimately it is a death of the physical body, not a death of the eternal spirit that you are. So this is a time, and I notice this in many people, where if any fear is left, face it head on. That's my suggestion. Face it head on. Go to the root of it. Why are you afraid of it? What do you fear happens after? And why do you think you are in no control of that? If you are an eternal spirit and you can connect to that, why wouldn't you have free will control over your journey, right? These are all things that I would encourage people to face head on. If anything, the last years have shown us just how unpredictable the circumstances in this construct can become. Now, the more that we empower ourselves and lose our fear or transmute it, if you will, the more we step into our true creator power, which is my only theory, is the only theory where we could possibly alter the course of such events or at least mitigate the effects on us. It's only when we step into more of who we are. So I approach this probably from a completely different angle and we do than most people. Like I said, not afraid, but I sort of think that 90, God knows 90, how many percent of people push off these responsibilities to some bureaucrats or some people in the government and go, oh, they're gonna take care of this. Yeah, they are, but not for our benefit, friends, not for our benefit. But we can, and so why don't we assume that responsibility on a greater level? Those who do, I think, are very active, are focusing accordingly, and know what to do, where to go, and when to do it. So this is my take on it. I don't focus too much on the nature of the event. Like I said, I don't have much influence over that. And I don't know that the exact nature of the event is as important as who we are right now and what our intentions are. Okay, this is my take on this. And I hope we can explore more of this in the future in an empowering way, not a fearful way, because it most certainly seems to be on the horizon. And I would also love to invite you to come over. Community has literally become the central focus of our wonderful viewers here and of our tribe. And I think it's wonderful that has happened. And so there's a beautiful digital community at inspired.locals.com where Christine and I thought it was going to be our uncensored platform. And it is uncensored, but that wasn't or isn't the main focus. The main focus is really on the expansion of consciousness, the raising of consciousness, and the community connects, talks to each other, shares victories and sometimes some hard moments and challenging moments. There is a level of support, a level of love, and a level of expansion that we simply could not predict. That's happening in the Inspired community on Locals. And we're just in awe how beautiful of a community it is. And it, yes, and just being able to witness the journeys people are taking, people that are stepping into their creator power. It's unbelievable, beautiful, and people connect in real life, and find out, oh, we don't. Yeah, and they're doing Zoom calls, and then they figure out they're not living too far from each other, and then they meet up, and it's everything that we wanted it to be, and so much more. So if you want to join us there, if you want to join us there, it's at inspired.locals.com. You can become a free member, and to watch sort of the Coffee and Truth live shows, our Honey Talks. You have to become a supporter. That's for our supporters there, which we're very thankful for. They keep us going and keep this work going, and that is $7 a month, or a discounted $70 a year. And one of the most beautiful things is that it keeps all the trolls away. No bots, no trolls. So for 19 cents a day, we keep the trolls away. So thank you so much, my friends. Yes. We're gonna jump on locals here in a moment. Like I said, inspire.locals.com. Tune in with the community if you want to join us. And we will be with you again very, very soon, my friends. We love you. We appreciate you. Are you looking for like-minded and like-hearted people to connect with? Then the Inspired community on Locals is the right place for you. You can post, comment, share, and connect with others, and our shows there are completely uncensored and unfiltered. It's stuff we can't talk about here. It's such a great community, and there are zero trolls. We keep the subscription fees super low, so 19 cents per day. Keep the trolls away. Join us today at inspired.locals.com. We can't wait to see you there.